Okay, so I'm going to make a reflected pattern from part of my drawing of the butterfly that I did for last week's work. Okay, the first thing I'm going to need to do is make a viewfinder. So I've got a bit of old paper here and a pair of scissors. Okay, so I'm going to fold my paper in half. Okay, fold it quite well. Then I'm going to cut in from the edge and cut a rectangle out of the paper like so that I've got a little window, and this is called a viewfinder. Okay, then I'm going to look on my butterfly and choose a part that I think looks really interesting. So I'm actually going to choose this section right in the middle. Okay, now you could stick it down with a bit of blue tack to keep it there if you want, but I'm just going to leave it in place. All right, then I'm ready to start drawing that into my box that I've drawn on my piece of paper. Okay, so this was my section of the butterfly I chose to draw, and here you can see I've drawn it into my box. I drew the box really carefully, 10 centimetres by 10 centimetres, and then I've drawn that so that it fills the box. Okay, you can see as well that I haven't included all of my patterns. Okay, I've kept some of it a bit blanker because otherwise it will be far too complicated. Okay, so the next thing you need to do is to trace this. So I'm using greaseproof paper, so baking paper. I've cut a little bit of paper, and you can see I've already started to trace it. So this is just paper that you use in the kitchen if you're baking. Okay, works really, really well as tracing paper. So I've drawn over, I've put it over my picture, my drawing here, so I can see the whole thing. Then I've drawn the outside box. That's really important for this. You need to include the outside box. Now I'm just drawing over all the lines that I can see in the box. And I'm pressing quite hard when I'm doing this. That will also be quite important for when we come to trace all the lines out. Okay, so I'm going to carry on with that, and I'll show you the next bit in a minute. Okay, so I've finished tracing my lines. Okay, you can see that I've traced all of them. Be careful you do trace all of them. Now, for the next stage, this is where we're going to start to use symmetry to create our reflected pattern. So I'm going to flip my paper, my tracing paper over, then I'm going to line it up with the right hand edge of that box there. Okay, and if you look really carefully, you can see that what I've got is the mirror image. It's a bit hard to see because my paper's a bit curly, but I've got the mirror image of what I've got to do. Now, all I need to do is draw over those lines again. Okay, again, I'm pressing really hard when I'm doing this. It's really important you do that because so that the pencil transfers onto your paper underneath. Okay, you will also remember you must trace the box around the outside. That's also really important because you're going to need that to line up for the next bit as well. Okay, so I'm going to carry on tracing over all the lines. Okay, and I will show you the next bit in a moment. Okay, so I've finished tracing that the whole of my design now. Be careful that you go over every line. Make sure you check. And remember, you must press hard. Then, when you take that away, you should see all the lines below. They might be a little bit faint, but that's all right. You can go over them. But do check that they are all there. All right, now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this over again. But this time, I'm doing it over this way. Okay, and then I'm going to line it up at the bottom of the box I just drew, and just check that I can see what looks like the mirror image of the drawing that I've done. Okay, then again I'm going to start drawing over the lines. Make sure you press nice and hard. Doing that nice and hard. Make sure you go over the lines of the box as well, otherwise you won't have anything to line up with. Okay, so I'm going to carry on tracing over all these lines, and I'll show you the last part of this in a minute. Okay, so I've finished doing my trace. Okay, now I bet you can guess what I'm going to do now. I'm going to flip it over again, but I'm flipping it this way this time. Okay, I'm going to line that up with the bottom line of that first square I drew and the left hand line of the last one. Okay, and then just check again I can see the mirror image of both of those things, and then once again I'm just going to draw over the lines. Now I should have said this on the after the last one, but if you're finding that when you draw over the lines they don't, and you lift it up, they don't come out, you've got your paper up the wrong way. Okay, so you need to make sure that it's correct. The only time this doesn't come out is either if you haven't been pressing hard enough or you haven't been going over the lines accurately enough. So if it doesn't come out, you might want to just kind of slightly scribble like I am here. Okay, or you've just got the tracing paper up the wrong way. Okay, now by the time you get to the stage I am at the moment, you'll actually have pencil on both sides by now. But for the first tracing, if it doesn't come out, your paper is up the wrong way, so just try it again. Okay, so I'm going to carry on with this, and I'll show you a photo of this when it's completed. Okay, so you can see that I've finished tracing the whole of my design, so I completely finished and opened it up, and you can see that I've got the mirror image of in each direction of my design, so the whole thing's finished. That's as far as I want you to get to this week with your design. You don't need to get any further than that, just to get the whole thing finished and make sure you've gone over all the lines to make sure it's really clear. Then what I would like you to do is I'd like you to write a little bit about how you've made your design, and I'm going to put some questions to help you with that on either the PowerPoint or the worksheet, but I want you to write that either on underneath your design or on a separate piece of paper. And don't forget that I would like you to share your work with me so I can see what you've done. You can share it with me on Instagram at InstaCabArt, or you can share it with me, upload it and share it with me on OneDrive. My email is hannah.copcutt@clf.uk. So that's it for this week. Next week what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking a little bit about colour and how to choose colours successfully, and then we'll be adding some colour to your design. Okay,